Good afternoon, people. Good afternoon. Couple things. I want to answer your questions. I would like to answer your questions, whatever they may be. And so feel free to drop in the chat. Air Force, anything, goings ons, and what have you. Hope you're all doing well. What's up, Bree? I see you in the chat. It's good. What can I say? A couple things. So I got a DM. And I'll say this. I get a lot of the same questions continuously, over and over again. It's pretty much the same questions. Each one is valid in its own right. And I don't like to minimize the fact that you're reaching out and those, who have questions and, are stuck in these places of indecisiveness. You're stuck between the factory job and, join the Air Force and, hold down for a specific job, or you don't care, or the economy, all these different variables. I strongly believe in efficiency. And so this is why I do these Ask Me Anythings. The opportunity to get your question addressed, probably in the best way, probably the most effective and efficient way I can answer it. Otherwise, if you go to my DMs, you're pretty much going to be outsourced to back to one of these different platforms where I've either made tons of videos on it, or you're able to book a session and we can deep dive into various topics. But yeah, every question is valid. And it's hard to answer some of these questions in a text where it's just, oh no, that's an easy fix, just do this and this. But of course, it's difficult. Yeah, who else we got in the chat? Okay, that's a good question. So we got Jib Punter. And good evening from PA. I'm new to the channel due to my recent interest in the Air Force. Do you mind filling me in on your Air Force career path and how long you did each job? That's a great place to start. One thing I wanted to do on this video is kind of walk you through every challenge and every success that I've had up until this point. What is on my lip? I don't know. So we'll start with that, and then by the time I get to the end of that monologue, we'll have some questions to address. I can see them populating as we speak, so we'll get to it. August 31st, 2016, your boy is taking L's, headed to the Air Force, headed to Lackland. Joined from Nashville, Tennessee, MEPS. I won't get into the backstory of how I got to the Air Force. I'll just start at the Air Force because, excuse me, the backstory will have to be its own video because that's about 4 years in the making as far as the decision, like all the different variables I overcame to finally get to I'm leaving for MEPS. I'm on a bus headed to the airport, headed to Lackland. That whole, it's a lot. So August 2016. First challenge overcame was basic training, obviously. Graduated with honor grad, top 10%. You probably hear a lot about it as far as whether or not it's valuable. It's more or less valuable. It looks good on your first EPR. That's about it. That's the only place that I've ever put it, and it held its value. Was my first EPR, which is just your evaluation, and that was when I was a senior airman, I believe. Well, no, I think it was A1C because I think they stopped doing it for A1C once I had already did my first CPR, I believe. Don't hold me to that. Either way, A1Cs do not do EPRs. It starts at senior airman, so we don't have to worry about that as far as what you've accomplished in the last year and what achievements you have to show for. Don't worry about all that until you're a senior airman, but do plan for it, mind you. Anyway, before I get off topic, so undergraduate. I scored a 92, I believe, on the end of course test. And I think I also scored 92 on the PT test. So 90 above on both tests. Probably the one variable a lot of people skip over and don't really know about is the fact that I got in zero trouble during basic training. Zero. I had 0 341s pulled. If you're in the Air Force, you know what that is already. It's just a little piece of paper that says, this is my squadron, this is my MTI, this is what I did, all that. I had 0 341s pulled. It's almost weird for it. But mind you, I was dorm chief. So if anyone else below me got in trouble, I got in trouble. But I didn't. So there's that. So 90 or above on both the end of course test and PT test, and 0 trouble. Also, it helped that I was dorm chief. I was put in charge of all of my flight mates. If there was an issue in the flight, they came to me. And of course, it's just your first taste of the chain of command, essentially. So that was my first taste of it, being the first line supervisor of my flight mates. If they had an issue, they came to me. I brought it up to the MTIs above me. or so the way they're supposed to work, if there's an issue in the flight, they go to the element leaders, and then the element leaders come to me, and then I go to the MTI. That's how it's built, on paper. Ultimately, it's just a conversation that happens with me. A conversation happens with me and the MTI. That being said, that's basically what I did to get honor grad. I didn't really plan it, more or less, to get honor grad. It was just kind of how it played out, and then as I got more information, I just started incorporating it. But it kind of helps the way I think and how competitive I am, and how much I value preparation. That kind of led to the 90 or above on both tests. And then, of course, just my mindset, avoiding the foolishness that tends to find you in basic training, because it's quite easy. It's quite easy. It's not so much separation of genders and what have you, like you might think. So that there's plenty of ways to get in trouble, plenty of ways to get down with the nonsense. Luckily, I just wasn't that person at that time. So that's basic training. Tech school. I failed my first AFSC. Why is that, you ask? Well, I didn't know how to study. I talk about this at length. I didn't know how to study. I got all the way through high school without studying a single night. I worked during high school. McDonald's, I was working. And so, during prom night, I was at McDonald's flipping them burgers. But yeah, first AFSC, radio frequency transmission systems. It's just comms. Some people deal with radio, some people deal with the loud speaker on bases, but I never got that far. I didn't get past the second block, I think. Second block of Dolan Hall, I believe. Keesler Air Force Base. Failed my first AFSC. I had tutors. I went early, stayed late, did everything I could with my current tools I had, and failed. Got reclassed. Now, mind you, the reclass process took about 4 months. So my first AFSC was supposed to be about 6 months long at tech school. Well, I ended up being there for 8 months total due to failing my first AFSC. So it's extra 2 months of pain because I wasn't prepared for the first one. Second AFSC, I graduated academic excellence, 93 average. And yeah, pure result of learning how I study. I need repetition when I study. I used to have Quizlet, shout out Quizlet, and I would get the book, the little block book. All right, for this week, you get a book and study that. I will go through the book as soon as I get it. I'll go through the book and type out notes. And my notes will be in the form of a question into the app, Quizlet. Therefore, when I go back to study it, I'm not looking at the notes. I'm looking at the created quizzes that are generated from your notes. So you're able to type in let's say you're taking a sentence, what is finance? And then the answer is finance is finance. And then Quizlet creates a quiz for you that says, what is finance? Finance is this. And you have this answer. You have it's multiple choice as well. So you have that benefit of being able to take quizzes over and over again based directly off your notes. Also, you're able to input the way you retain information, the way you think into your notes. So it's not using like a random quiz you find online. You're able to use your knowledge of yourself while studying, if that makes sense. So that process worked out very well, very well. So obviously, I was surprised to get less than a 90 on any test. Less than 90 on any test. I was surprised. I was never worried about failing a test. I was worried about getting a 99 or 89. Because your mindset shifts when you get to a place where you're always prepared for everything. That you're not worried about failing. You're worried about not getting a perfect score or missing it by 1 point. It's a different type of stress. It's completely different kind of stress when you're worried about getting 89 or 99 versus a 64. That two different energies. So that was tech school, 8 months long, couple girlfriends in that time. A lot goes on in tech school, especially in almost a year in tech school, almost a year in the training environment. It's not what you want. Training environment is not the Air Force. It's meant to get you through. The training environment is where you go there to, your job is to study. They pay you, and your job is to pass a block test at a time. Study every single night. And a lot of people, they miss it. I know I have a lot of friends I was hooping with in tech school that are at home civilian right now because they lost focus. So it's unfortunate, but training environment is not a place to get in trouble. It's not a place to get injured. It's not a place to get pregnant. It's not a place to do a lot of things. You're there to study, get through it, get out of there so you get to your first base and taste operational Air Force, which is where you're trying to get. So first base, I leave Keesler and I go on leave for about a month or so. I go to New York, go to Tennessee, just on the road. First base, Andrews Air Force Base, Maryland. It's about 10 miles or so from Washington, D.C. In hindsight, I loved it. In hindsight, when I was there, it was turbulent. No one really complains about a flight except for the little bit of turbulence you tend to deal with, because there's uncertainty surrounding turbulence. It's the same position I'm in now, where there's just uncertainty surrounding turbulence. You don't have all the answers. You want all the answers. You have questions. You have more questions, and all you have is turbulence. So one of the first big obstacles I dealt with at my first base, working in finance, was doing briefings, in processing briefings. You got a room full of about 20 people, and everybody's sitting around table. And at Andrews, DC in general, it's a high concentration of officers. That's a high concentration, mainly due to the Pentagon, the headquarters of the Department of Defense is in your city. And at the time, before the 11th at Bolling stood up, Andrews was handling all finance issues. Even though Bolling was still there, a lot of people were just skipping Bolling Air Force Base, which is in the heart of DC. A lot of people don't know about Bolling Air Force Base. There's no flight line. It's just a small little headquarters area. The Navy's there. I believe it's a joint base, but it's right smack dab in the middle of DC. But then you have Andrews, where the planes are parked, and you have the guard there as far as F-16s to intercept and whatnot. You have a lot in the DMV area. So my in-processing briefings, either Mondays or Wednesdays, I'm sitting there dealing with captains and up, and I walk in the room with my little A1C stripes. I'm in there trying to flex, and they don't know what they're doing. It's finance. A lot of them probably have previous experience as far as filing a voucher, but they don't know the answers. That's why they're there. Otherwise, they just fill it out and send it in. They're trying to get paid for their travel. Cool. It's my job to walk them through their documents, and that was obviously way before COVID. So you had 20 people in a room, and I'm sitting there, and I'm supposed to be the subject matter expert. And I'm sitting there clueless because tech school, it taught you what you're supposed to know, but you didn't leave there knowing what you're supposed to know. It's a major difference between tech school, where they teach you theory, and they teach you like the general subjects, and then your first base, where you're actually doing it. And you need answers on the spot. You need experience. You need to account for certain variables in an operational setting versus the educational setting. So I'm sitting there trying to figure things out. And it took me literally, I typed out every word. I didn't type it out. I wrote out every single word I was going to say during that briefing. Every single word I was going to say during that processing briefing, I wrote it down because I hated being unprepared. So before we got to the questions, and of course I had side people with me, I wasn't by myself. But in the beginning, I'm sitting there worried about how do I brief them on this stuff and not forgetting what I'm going to say? And no, I came in there with sheets of paper saying, all right, turn to your 594. This is your BH document. And I'm reading word for word. Now, obviously, it's normal now. But of course, before you get to this point where you just 594 BH document, you don't think about it in the moment where this is not always going to be here. This struggle is not always going to be the same. Of course, in the moment, you don't have that same confidence that I do now with in processing or travel, all those different variables I've experienced now, and so I approach it differently. So that was the first hurdle I had to deal with as far as, I mean, if you include living in the dorms, I think back then I was sleeping on a full-size bed, so it wasn't as bad as I'm sleeping on now. It's twin size. That's a whole nother thing. But yeah, just being at my first base, obviously I had a car, but being new to a major city, living in a major city that close to DC, but I mean, you're technically still in a major city. Like that was a whole thing. Going off base every day to explore DC and racking up parking and fees and like just blowing money, like not realizing I can't afford to just go downtown and just park wherever I feel like it. $20 every time I park. No. So just a lot of learning from living in a small, military town to living in a major city where it just happens to be a lot of military bases in the major city. A lot of experiences built there. But that was my first base. From there, we deployed. Loved it. Again, in hindsight, I loved it. And I will go back tomorrow. If you called me to go back to where I was, mind you, I go in a heartbeat. I got paid, and a lot of you made a video on this. I'm not sure if it's still up on my channel. Did a recent purge on my channel. So yeah, just kind of redoing a lot of things. But anyway, my job when I was deployed, you have a lot of people that are fearful of deploying, especially to the Middle East, and just you see the news and you wonder what is reality in terms of an Air Force deployment, mind you. I got paid to watch people clean bathrooms. Over a 6-month time span, I walked away with roughly, give or take, 20 G's, tax-free, while making BH, basic allowance for housing. So I'm making about $2,000 a month for rent that I'm not paying, $400 a month for food that food is supplied for you is free, along with tax-free entitlements, such as, I don't want to get into all that. You guys don't probably have context on that. Anyway, the point is, it was a dope job. I watched so many movies while I was over there, mainly because you have a lot of downtime. My position had a lot of downtime. It was dope. At my specific base, again, it was in Abu Dhabi. You're allowed to drink. At this deployed environment. It's rare. 3 drink max. And of course, you're in the desert, so most of the time you're dehydrated. So the first drink hits you and you just sleepy. Dope experience. I left there with more friends than I went there with. Dope experience. That was my first deployment. I think I have more videos on that, but if not, if you have questions on that, we can follow up on that in the chat. So yeah, definitely plug your questions. I'll try to get to as many as I can. If you really want your question answered, throw it in the super chat. I see David Frost already has one, so we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, deployment was dope. Rode my first jet ski in Dubai. Where I was, we was like about an hour away from Dubai. It was amazing. That was about 6 months. Then we come back, get back to Andrews, and they say, "Yo, we are sending you to the Pentagon." Shout out Pentagon, bro. Where we at? You see it. They send me to the Pentagon, and of course, I'm excited and nervous because this is the headquarters of the Department of Defense. The building you only see on the movies. Every movie starts off with, all right, we got Pentagon on the phone, this, and you got the UFO videos getting released from the Pentagon. I'm like, this is the Pentagon, bruh. And I get there and I get to and I have all these visions of what the office is going to look like. There's going to be glass everywhere, and it's going to be a big old plane right in the middle. And you're going to have generals walking past me in blues, and I'll be in blues, and everybody's carrying coffee and phones ringing off the hook, and big old screens on the wall of deployed environments and drone footage. And I get there and it's like a regular military building. That probably doesn't mean much to if you're a civilian watching this right now. But it was an average military building. Of course, it was huge. First day I walk in, get there about 30 minutes early, and I'm lost. Because why? Nothing's labeled. And of course, rightfully so, it's the Pentagon. Nothing's labeled in the Pentagon. So if you're not supposed to be in there, you're going to stand out. You're not going to happen upon someone's office and happen upon, General so-and-so's office. No. You're not happening upon anything. You will be lost and you're going to stick out like a sore thumb. Definitely, probably the highlight outside of my deployment, probably the highlight of my career was simply the opportunity to work in that building because it was a privilege. Everyone does not get the chance to work there, especially, Andrews was sharing an office there. So it was the same personnel that belonged to Andrews. We just happened to have a separate office there because, it made it easier for those who worked there to have assistants and have an office local. So it was a team of 4. And again, in hindsight, I miss it. A lot of big wigs walking around. You see 3 and 4 stars and it's nothing. Every branch represented there. You see Coast Guard, you see the Navy, you see the Marines. The cool thing is we didn't have to wear our blues. I showed up most of the time in ABUs, ABUs and OCPs. And then when COVID started, I was going there dressed like this. It was dope. I would show up around 9 or so, do my 2 hours of work. We were supposed to be teleworking, but I will go in 2 days a week and get all my work done. Chilling. Dope experience. It's almost like a museum because the longer you work there, the more you discover in that building. It's literally a city. The Pentagon is its own city. I don't really know how many floors there are there. As many floors as I know in the.
I found this on the web for how many floors are there. Check it out.
Just Siri talking about. Siri is answering questions. As far as I know, that there are at least 6 floors that I know about. 6. Obviously, it's the Pentagon, so God knows how many are in there. But so our office was on the 5th floor, but then obviously the gym was on the bottom floor. It's a lot. So there's 6 I know about, probably 7-ish. Anyway, dope building. For PT, you could easily run laps after work, just running around each floor, running stairs. It's a very large building. Love the handicap bathrooms. There's like 10 on each floor. It was dope. That was a whole experience. I could probably do a whole video on what it was like to work at the Pentagon. Again, if you have questions on that, drop them in the chat. And if I'm able to answer it, I will. So yeah, that was the Pentagon. Worked there for about 8 months. Met a lot of people. Saw the Secretary of Defense, enlisted Jesus, General Goldfein, various other generals. Had a ton of colonels. It turns into a normal job because you kind of get desensitized to seeing stripes and stars, and it just becomes another day where you show up to work, take the metro in. That was a new thing, taking the metro every day to work. 45-minute ride. Got great use of my headphones, noise canceling. Did a lot of editing of videos, posting thumbnails from the metro. It was a whole thing. I miss it. It was a dope experience. From the Pentagon, we go to Clear Air Force Station, Alaska. And that's where we are now. And the first Space Force resource advisor to serve here at Clear. And my main job is to just manage money. I pay the bills here, literally. The bills here, electric bill is in the 6 figures. It's a scale of money that I've never been accustomed to. Like I've never got an electric bill and say, what? $600,000 for electric bill, $1 million for electric bill, $4,000 late fee. Like I've never seen money like that. And so obviously on this scale, it's different. But yeah, managing the money, buying a lot of things. Last week I rode a snowmobile that I paid for. It was dope. And again, still learning. I had 0 training for this job. There's no tech school for being a resource advisor. This technically falls under budget. So if those of you who have accounting experience or you have a degree in finance, there is no degree that translates to this job because this is military finance, it's military budget. The processes are so frictionful. There's nothing civilian equivalent to it. We use a lot of Excel. I don't want to get into all that, but yeah, there is no civilian equivalent for this job. Outside, maybe an accountant. It's probably the closest thing you can get. But this job technically falls under the budget side of my actual AFSC finance, although I have no training for it, which is weird because I'm still in the position. So yeah, it's been an interesting year. Coming up on my next PCS, which again, once I get some, I'll go ahead and tell you. Once I get a RIP, once I get either a RIP or some orders, I will tell y'all where I'm going. But I don't like to get my hopes up, and I don't like to just make announcements. It's the Air Force, and the Air Force likes to do what they want to do, and so I don't like to just think I'm going somewhere or think about information or assume, and then something gets dropped because then my feelings are hurt. I thought I was leaving, whatever. But it's a short tour, so I have to leave. It's a 1-year tour here at Clear Air Force Station for active duty. There are 2 guard units here, but yeah. My assignment is loaded in virtual MPF. So I'm looking at that. I'm just waiting for some documentation that I can make some movements on. And as soon as I find out that I have documents, I will be making the announcement here of my next base. And that starts another chapter that I'll come on here and document as best I can. I still have a lot of footage that I want to do for this room as far as doing a dorm tour of what it was like to live here, and just some views of the base, and just document a little bit. But that's been my journey in the Air Force so far, from 2016 to 2021. That's been my journey. It's been interesting. But yeah, a lot of growth, a lot of turbulence, a lot of stress, a lot of worrying, a lot of unnecessary worrying. I can say now that I'm in a much better place in terms of anxiety. Sometimes anxiety is due to just caring too much, and that sounds bad. It's almost like a backdoor compliment that because I care about my job so much, I have anxiety. No, sometimes it's caring about things that you shouldn't be caring about, trying to fix things that you should not be trying to fix. I can admit, and it took several people telling me, but people kept calling me a perfectionist. I don't like to prescribe to labels as far as, because I'm a perfectionist and it's now a life sentence and I have to live out what it means to be a perfectionist. No, there was just evidence, and professionals keep calling me and saying, you have the evidence right here, that, would lead us to believe that you're a perfectionist. You have some issues in these areas that you can't accept defeat, or being weak, or incompetent, or being perceived as incompetent. It produced anxiety to where I had to go get help and saying, all right, Isaiah, it's okay for you not to care about that right there. Leave it alone. Let it sit there. It's okay to not be in your seat from 07:30 till 04:30. It's okay to go take a break, walk around, stretch your legs, go get some air. To not be perfect. To not have every single answer as soon as the question comes up. So it took this assignment here has gave me a lot of reality checks, meaning that I'm more in tune with what truly matters here. What will this matter in 10 years? This assignment, this 1-year short tour, what will this matter in 20 years? Should I have lost sleep over that glitch? That bill didn't get paid on time. Growth. So that was about 34-minute rant of my career. Hopefully that gives people a little bit more context of who I am and what I've been doing roughly the past 4 and a couple of months, 4 years, 4.5 years in the Air Force. And yeah, again, first Space Force Resource Advisor here, Clear. That's history. You feel me? That's history. Who we got in the chat? LaCroix, lime, tastes just like Sprite. I don't know how they do it. Anyway, I'm not sponsored by it, but they trying to sponsor your boy. I mean, see the links in the description. You see. All right, let's get some of these questions out. What else we got? Brianna Shante asks, I do a lot of solo travel, and I see you do as well. How is it solo traveling internationally if you've done it? Also, love your videos and curious on your relationship status. Why are you nosy, man? Good question. So the extent of my international travel has been purely during my deployment. It's very expensive to travel overseas, but it's very well. First of all, there are options to travel for free in the military. It's called Space Available. So basically, if you have a cargo plane going from your base or the nearest base nearest you, any base for that matter, if you have a cargo plane going from any base that has available seats, you can fly on that plane for free, and go as long as you're on leave, as long as you are literally on a leave status from the time that you reserve that seat. And again, it's based on having space available. That's what it's called. You can travel for free. Wherever that plane is going, you can go with it. So that's one way in the military to travel for free, absolutely free. So definitely take advantage of that when you get a chance. But yeah, when I was deployed, I traveled alone quite often when I was able to, because they changed the rules towards the end, making us all travel with staff sergeants because people mess it up for everybody else. Of course, it always happens where someone messes it up for everyone else. But luckily, I'm 6'2", 230 pounds or so. So I've never worried about, traveling alone or, dark alleys or, exploring, getting got. But yeah, the Middle East, a lot of people see the Middle East and have all these misconceptions, and they believe in all these myths that, it's just bomb shopping every 2 minutes. The Middle East is one of the most, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, one of the most peaceful areas I've ever been in. One of the most peaceful areas I've ever been in. Not a hint of racism. And I say that specifically mainly because I was looking for it. I was like, this is weird. Like, of course, we're all the same color, so it's pretty dope in that way. But yeah, you're in a tourist area. At least Abu Dhabi, Dubai, it's a major tourist attraction. So you have everyone is from somewhere else. Everyone is from somewhere else. So it was highly dope in that way. But I plan on doing a lot more international travel. I just got off the phone earlier today with a recruiter in the Air National Guard, and I have some plans working there. So probably some videos will be coming out on that as that progresses. But yeah, your boy is planning some stuff as far as international travel that, yeah, will get me more in the line of work that I actually want to do and will enjoy doing. So more to come on that later. But yeah, curiosity on my relationship status. I am, according to the U.S. government, according to the Internal Revenue Service, I am single. Single, meaning not married. Yeah, leave it at that. Leave it at that. Good question, though. Laren Nash. Apologize on last name. Aaron asks, is the Air Force a good stepping stone if I only want to serve 4 years? I'm 17, turning 18 in May. It's a great stepping stone. It's absolutely a great stepping stone. It's why I'm here. The Air Force, again, a lot of people see the Air Force or the military at large, and they think it's a life sentence. That because you joined, you have to do 20 years, you got to be miserable, you got to wreck up the side of a mountain, you got to go shoot at people, you got to eat MREs. It's not the case. It's not the case. You have active duty, you have guard, you have reserves. Active duty, guard, and reserves. From being active duty, I see the benefits of going guard and reserves. To have the benefits of the military as a whole, but still having a civilian piece that gives you what some people call freedom. I would call it liberty. Either way, you have more options relative to your goals. A lot of people ask about college and whether or not you have time to do college while you're in the military. You have tons of time. I'm doing an hour plus long live stream. That's plenty of time to do essay. It's plenty of time to read a book or some chapters or what have you. Write a paper. You have time. You have time. So it's all based on how you use it. The time you get up, time you go to bed, what you do in between. All that, accounts into your ability to do extra stuff outside the military. So no matter what your ambition is, especially at age 17, 18, you're starting early. Great. Perfect. Set some goals. And ask yourself, how does the Air Force factor in to my personal goals? Because while you're in the military, the Air Force will try to reassign you and try to change your goals and try to help you into different directions. And it's up to you to keep that tunnel vision. This is where I'm going. The Air Force has helped me with this, this, and this. And leave it at that. So, yeah, it's imperative that you have goals set. You're welcome to change them. Your goals should not always or shouldn't necessarily be set in stone. But set something to aim for. At which point the Air Force now has value in terms of it's a resource now. Hope that helps. Jib Hunter. Dom Jones asks, did you have any waivers or any problems getting in? I had a credit waiver, fulfilling the stereotype that Black people have bad credit. Thankfully, the possibility for growth and betterment and discipline. Things are different now. But back then, 2016, I had emergency bills I had to pay off, or not so much pay off, but I put them on payment plans. Pretty much everything on my credit had to be addressed. So things I try to run away from, things I try to just forget about. Credit collectors. No, I'm not going to answer your phone call. No, when you're in the recruitment process, you're going to answer those phone calls. You're going to try to make a deal, try to get a receipt, and try to put things on payment plans, try to get things addressed like adults, like all adults should be doing. So, credit waiver. And didn't really have any issues with anything else. My weight was a bit high according to the Air Force, but it was nothing. Credit waiver. Got it approved, and here we are. Be mindful that if you're trying to go for a job that requires a top secret clearance, that credit will probably be a major factor in terms of whether or not you may or may not be able to get it. They don't want people with, major issues, especially with the incentive of money and the illusion of money and the pursuit of money can be a major pull when it comes to doing certain jobs. And that's the last thing the Air Force needs, is someone who needs money doing, heavy demand jobs where you can be influenced. And so just be mindful of things like that. Credit waiver. See you, Bree. It's a good question. Planet Moolah asks, why the Air Force over the Marines? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. If there was any other branch that I would join in the military, it would be the Marines. The Air Force just happens to be the first one I chose. The Marines came to see me in high school. The only branch that came to see me in high school was the Marines. Came to my house. I'm like, I don't know why y'all here. My dad was in the Army, and he always told me stories about, swimming in swamps and 12-mile ruck marches and jumping out of planes, and sleeping in the field, 15 days in the field. I'm like, pass, bro. Pass. I ain't got time for all that, bro. And so just as time progressed, as I got older and matured a bit, you start hearing about the Air Force. Okay, so the Air Force is the weaker branch. It's the smart branch. It's where all the intellectuals go. All the smart kids go to the Air Force. And that's where it kind of clicked that I don't like the dirt. I don't like getting my hands dirty. I enjoy quiet, peaceful, air-conditioned environments with Starbucks on the desk, with cell phone service. And when I go to deploy, I like to do my same job. Just happen to be in a different country, but I'm not holding a rifle. In every other branch, with probably the exception of the Navy, you are infantry first. Army, the Marines, you are taught to shoot a gun before you're taught to do a trade. Now, of course, this applies probably to the Navy and the Air Force in the same way that you have to go qualify probably at the shooting range or CADM. You still got to qualify to shoot a gun, but your first job when you deploy or you get your first base is not. No. The Air Force is different in the way that they want this. They want this. In a way, all the branches want. So again, most of the military branches are similar and the same fundamentally. But it's when you get into the weeds, is when you get into the different AFSCs, the different jobs, the different MOSs, the different purposes of each branch, and why there's a branch for certain purposes. Certain missions require certain branches. It's like the Air Force trying to go, do the job of the Coast Guard. For what? They're better at it. They're better equipped. Their tools match the mission, the purpose. It's like F-16 trying to attack. I mean, okay, the F-16 is probably capable of doing so, but yeah, each branch is different. And so by choosing a branch, you're choosing your mission set for the next 4 to 6 years. What's essential is defined differently across the branches. So in the Marines, they might all be essential, whereas the Air Force, it's different. It's different. So, yeah, I tend to be absolute in my thinking. It's something I'm addressing with my therapist currently. To add more nuance to my life, not trying to be black and white all the time. Hell yes, no. There has to be some type of balance, and I try to bring that out. But when I chose a branch, I'm like, I'll take the luxury branch over the rough and tumble branch. But I tend not to pick anything in the middle, which the Army and the Navy. No, give me the worst branch in terms of physical, requirements, or give me the least in terms of physical requirements. And I chose the least. No regrets at this point. No regrets. So, yep, chose the Air Force. Why you should choose the Air Force over the Marines? I can't make the decision, but in most cases, I think the Air Force is better fit for those who are trying to use the military as a stepping stone. Those who are just here for the benefits. Obviously, there are more variables to account for as far as why you join the military. But yeah, if you're seeing the Air Force the way you should see it, meaning you see the Air Force, you see the military as a job. For some, it's a career. For some, it's a calling. Granted. But in most cases, for 90% of people, it's just a job. It's just, I'm trying to get education. I'm trying to get, travel a little bit. I'm trying to get out of my hometown. I'm trying to get out of my parents' house, trying to get financially stable. Pick the branch that's closest to the civilian world, meaning there are more desk jobs probably, arguably in the Air Force than any other branch. And then deployments. Who wants to be deployed on a ship in the bowels of the Titan? No. In my opinion, you won't catch me on a ship for longer than the length of a cruise. And then, of course, I don't sleep in fields. I don't sleep in dirt. I don't sleep in sleeping bags. I sleep in hotels. I'm different. But yeah, major differences, major contrast between the Air Force and Marines, mainly because of the purpose of each branch. So just keep that in mind. What else we got? Hiram, I see you. Try to get through some of these questions. I see Reality is Strange in here. I see you. Reality Strange always comes here with the good stuff. Reality Strange says, we're on a rock spinning thousands of miles per hour with a giant fireball giving us light in an endless universe. We worry about what a celebrity did this morning. Why do you think that is? You must not acknowledge a couple things. Reality is Strange. Not everyone is capable. I'll rephrase. Not everyone is willing to study their environment. And by environment, I mean the universe, the ecosystem, the earth. Most people struggle to see anything outside of themselves. It's like it's worse than entitlement. It's like the most dangerous form of ignorance. Some will call it solipsism, where all I know is my experience, my life, my friends, my feelings, my wants, my desires, my needs, and they have no clue that there are other people on this planet that have those same things. And so when it comes to having that worldwide, that universe-wide objective view of reality, and to say, wait, why is gravity the same every day? Yes, it's slightly decreasing over time. It's like an inch a year or something crazy. The moon's getting slowly and slowly, like 1 or 2 inches further away per year. Granted, entropy, cool. But a lot of people don't take the time to realize this world is ran by principles, and that we must question who wrote those principles. Where did the laws of thermodynamics come from? Who was the author of that? Why should there be order in the universe? Meaning the sun is not crashing into us as we speak. Why is that the moon on fire? Why are we struggling to find water anywhere else? They're talking about finding, clay on Mars, which is indication that there was moisture at some point. Cool. But a lot of people don't ask these simple questions that indicate there has to be more than just me and my wants and my desires and my, perspective of the world. So with that, in regards to your question, why people care about celebrities is because we don't have anything better to worry about. Notice, and again, this stuff is apparent when you look for it, especially with questions like this. The beginning of COVID, it was silent on social media. And anyone who spoke up, especially if you were a celebrity, got hammered. Lockdowns, people were locked away in their houses, alone, struggling more or less. And then you have like someone like Ellen, who'll come on there and, yeah, I'm locked away in my, 20,000 square foot mansion. Just had to go for a swim to help me with my depression of being locked up in the house all day. But, I called DoorDash and they brought some snacks. And of course, the butler was late for work. So that upset me. And she got hammered. She got hammered because she couldn't see outside of herself. And the people were mad that she didn't see outside of herself to see what they were going through, so she can have perspective that maybe she doesn't have it so bad. I have no opinion on that. It is what it is. But there comes a time where you realize people don't have enough to worry about. And when that occurs, people will start creating things to worry about. If you live in so much peace that you have to start creating chaos, you're in a dangerous place. So, of course, people will manufacture their own chaos just so they can feel something. People will accuse somebody of cheating just so they can feel the rush of arguing so they can make up. Stupidity. It's crazy. But this is the life that a lot of people have to live, that, if there's no controversy, if there's no drama going on, people get bored. So, it's the reality of what humans are. And sometimes it takes a hurricane to wake us up. Sometimes it takes an avalanche or a mudslide. Sadly, it takes tragedy to give us perspective that maybe that celebrity tweeting that one thing wasn't so bad. Maybe the fact that my house is not underwater, a lot of people just lack perspective. Even so, a lot of people lack a universal perspective, meaning that there's more than just Earth here, and that something is keeping this Earth in orbit. The question is, why is gravity so consistent? I don't know. Good question. See what we've got. Luis Ramos asks, I know you're not medical, but I had been given prescription of eczema 2 years ago, which I didn't even use. I only used over-the-counter remedies. Will this disqualify me at reps when now is fine? Wait. So again, this is one of those cases where I would say I don't know. I don't know. This is something I always say to when it comes to these will this disqualify me type jobs or type questions rather. If it's documented, it will be most likely addressed. Now, whether that ends up with you being disqualified or accepted, I don't know. I do not know. Your best bet is ask yourself the question. Again, it starts with accountability. Ask yourself the question: is this documented in my own medical history, in my own criminal history, in my credit history? Is this documented? You might have to do some research. You might have to pull some documents. Go dig into your records. Find out for yourself, is this documented? If the answer is yes, if it's a strong possibility or strong probability that yes, it's documented, tell your recruiter. Tell the recruiter. Because that's your ticket in. The recruiter is your ticket in. That's the only person trying to help you get in is the recruiter. MEPS, their job is to disqualify people. MEPS is not trying to help anyone join the military. Their job is to disqualify people. I understand that. Tell your recruiter if there's an issue. If something's documented, it's going to get found. It's the U.S. government you're dealing with. People fail to realize you're dealing with the U.S. government. This is not a person or entity or institution that has become successful by being surprised. Think about the history of the United States. The wars that we have won, endured rather, it's probably a better term, endured, come out on top. The U.S. has benefited by not being surprised. That's why we have the DMV, the intelligence agencies that just span the entire area. NSA, DIA, the Pentagon, Langley, CIA. You have all these different, organizations that pride themselves on knowing things they should not know. So you're telling me that we're going to walk into MEPS and try to pull the wool over the U.S. government? You're welcome to try. But I personally would rather be disqualified, tell the truth, be able to sleep at night, than to walk around the rest of MEPS or the rest of basic training, tech school, first duty station, trying to sneak by on stuff, hoping that somebody doesn't ask the right question. Now, again, I'm not saying go run your mouth. Again, try to get the message from this. It's wisdom. It's wisdom. The answer I'm giving you is wisdom, meaning weigh out the probabilities, look at all the possible, potential, and probable outcomes of your decisions, and make the best decision, which does not end up in regret. So again, if it's documented, if there's a probability it's documented, tell your recruiter, not MEPS. Tell your recruiter and let them help you. And if they tell you, nope, try a different recruiter. But again, trying and then being prepared for all potential outcomes. That's my answer. It's not the best answer, but it is what it is. Some answers, in most cases, to a question like that, I just say I don't know. So in most cases, I'm going to answer I don't know. But that's how I would approach it if I was in your position. Hope that helps. Hiram, I am struggling to follow a lot of your comments as of late. I'm sure there's some greater good that you're pointing to, but yeah, I'm struggling to follow your line of thinking. Here's a question. I have a girlfriend. I've been with her 4 years. I want to join the Army, but I'm afraid she might cheat on me for being gone too long. Big head. Here's the reality of your situation. I'm not one to be pessimistic. On the other hand, I'm not one to be optimistic. I like to look at the reality of what this world is and what humans are. First of all, one key word that you used was afraid. Fear is irrational. Fear itself is irrational. Now, what you might be pointing to is evidence, which is faith. So the way your question or your comment should have read is, I have a girlfriend I've been with for 4 years and I want to join the army, but I have faith that she might cheat on me, being gone too long. That's what you're pointing to, is you believe based on evidence that she might cheat on you. Otherwise, your premise is wrong, because you start off saying, I've been with her for 4 years. It's almost like you're trying to use that 4 years to ground you and tell you, because she's been with me this long, that she has loyalty. And loyalty kind of leads into trust and leads into not betraying me. If you study history, you would know that that's a false assumption. That no one is predisposed to loyalty. There's a quote I posted on Twitter: never correct someone until they are loyal. Never discipline someone until they are loyal. Otherwise, they will become bitter. You're in a place where you're trying to control another human being. It's not possible. Realize that love is a choice, and it's based upon choice. The built-in assumption to love is that they have the choice to love you. Loyalty is a choice. What it sounds like to me, and again, this is just my assumption of the words you place there, is that you do not trust her. Another thing I posted on Twitter, and I made a separate video about it. We struggle to enjoy something because of the belief that it should be permanent. Why do you think that this relationship that you've had for the last 4 years should go for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years? What makes you think that any relationship in your life should be permanent? Explain to me why she should be loyal. Why should she wait? Why should she be faithful? Neither one of us has the answer to that. Neither one of us has the answer to that. Here's what I would do if I was in your position. I would examine the evidence. The evidence. The Bible says faith is the evidence of things hoped for. It sounds like you have hope that she's going to cheat on you for some reason. Examine that. Start with accountability. It's quite simple. Start with accountability. Ask yourself, what have I done to end up here? It sounds like you just need a conversation. And again, I'm not trying to give you some romantic advice about, if you have a conversation, tell her, I specifically asked you not to cheat on me. Please do not cheat on me. And then no. There's no answer to your question. There's no, hey, just do this, this, and this, and this. Post this many pictures, text her this many times, write her this many letters, and she'll be faithful. Trust me, when I was deployed, everyone was single. When I was deployed, everyone was single. It's my argument that everyone is for the streets. Everyone. Even if they're married, they're single. This world has moved to a non-committal type society. Find me. Nowadays, most people want something without having to commit to it. Everything from Netflix to Amazon Prime, to Hulu, to your AT&T, Verizon, to your cable, to your car lease, to your rent month-to-month apartment. People do not like long-term commitment. We used to. I'm not sure if that was societal pressure, which even I don't believe in that to a point. A lot of people used to prescribe to things that were just long-term and pretty much indefinite. But now we live in a place where everything kind of is prepaid. Even our relationships nowadays are prepaid, where why in the world would you think that she's going to do something against her nature? I study human nature personally, and I assume betrayal. And I like to be surprised by kindness. But again, another quote from Twitter: no one's ever broken your heart. They've only broken your expectations. And that's the place you're in. You're setting expectations, and you're setting yourself up to be betrayed. How do you define cheating? Ask your partner. Ask your partner how they define cheating, and that's cheating. But as long as we live in a society where we all define for ourselves, I define cheating as sexual intercourse. She defines cheating as sending a text. So by my definition, I haven't cheated on anyone. By hers, I've been cheating for the last 3 years. We don't live in a fair world. And so what you're asking for is control of someone. Even in your mind, you want control that and the peace to think and to know that her actions will not change. You don't have that. That assurance is not guaranteed. It's not present. It's not reality. So it sounds like you have a decision to make. I can't make it for you. I can't advise you. All I do is study human nature and base my decisions accordingly. Because I know what humans do most of the time. I know what humans tend to do most of the time. They go towards pleasure, comfort, entitlement. I deserve. I feel I was weak. It is what it is. So best of luck with that decision. But typically, I think you know what's going on here. It's up to you. It's up to you. What else we got? We got a couple super chats. I have a 75 general ASVAB score. Best job for stability. Also, I'm 17. I have no prior job experience. I appreciate the super chat, David Frost. Much love. Much love. So pretty much anybody that comes to the military has no job experience because the military is different. There's rarely a job that you can come into the military with and be prepared for it already. Unless you're like services where you're just cleaning or folding towels or something, managing a hotel on base or something. It's very rare that you'll have the skills already coming into the Air Force. So just be mindful of that. In regards to best job for stability, it depends on how you define stability. I'll go ahead and define it for you just because I hate giving an answer. It depends. Pretty much any desk job is how I define stability. Any job that has set hours, Monday through Friday, let's say 7:30 to 4:30, is how I define stability. It's consistent hours that rarely change, more or less. Yeah. So if you think about desk jobs in the military, you have everything from med group, which is typically in high demand, but it's still possible. You have admin, you have finance, you have personnel. What else we got? Yeah, a lot of Air Force jobs are typically 7:30 to 4:30 Monday through Friday. Security forces is definitely not. Aircraft, anything It's definitely not. Flatline, anything for the most part, definitely not. Yeah, just aim for desk related jobs. Just ask yourself a logical question. Does this job work at a desk Monday through Friday? Are they closed on weekends? That's how I define stability. The military as a whole is stable financially speaking, but in terms of hours given to the military and working in a given environment or so, I start with the time and the hours that I work. So hope that helps. Hero, I'm not sure what you're referring to. I have no clue what you're referring to, man. Yeah, I don't know. Any thoughts on Air Force ROTC in college? I have thoughts, but I don't have insight. So I only know what I've heard and observed. There was one officer here at Clear went through the program. I think he went to USC or UCLA, one of those. And he's now officer. He's Space Force, second lieutenant, very sharp individual. All I know is that you're military. That typically you're coming. Well, obviously you're coming. It's officer route. And there's a commitment after you graduate. So it's more or less it's a pipeline into an officer position or commissioned officership, if you will. But first you're going to college, obviously, but you're not paying for it. So it's just you get that benefit out of it. It's pretty much all I know about it. I'm not sure all the red tape that might be associated with it, the benefits thereof, the hours. I'm sure they have PT throughout the week, and they probably wear uniform, to classes or what have you. Might be some red tape associated just because it's associated with the military. That's pretty much all I know. But you're probably better off YouTubing it from someone who probably actually did it. But yeah, that's pretty much all I know about it. What else we got? That's a good question. Nine Ghost asks, what step did you take to set yourself up in the future for getting out of the military? The number one thing I track is options and how I'm able to create options for myself. And typically it involves money. My number one goal for leaving the military is to be able to leave on my own accord. I don't want to be put out. I don't want to be forced out, and I don't want to have to re-enlist if I don't want to. And so with that, my decisions obviously play a major factor in that. Making staff pretty much guaranteed me the ability, more or less, to retire in the military. You can't retire as senior airman. You can't do 20 years as a senior airman. You can do 20 as a staff sergeant. So making staff sergeant, ensured that if I wanted to retire, I'd not have that option starting now. Now, with that, if I wanted to get out after my 6-year contract, which is around August of next year, do I have the income lined up as far as where I will be working or how my income will be, sustaining me outside the military? Because for a lot of people who don't plan this, it's a turbulent transition to going from this guaranteed paycheck infrastructure to just going back to the economy. And you're subject to the economy because the Air Force cushions the economy wherever you live. Alaska is a very expensive place to live. DC, my last base, very expensive place to live. I never felt it because your pay compensates. The cost of living is literally in Alaska, we get cost of living to kind of cushion that blow of living in different economies. When you're civilian, depending on your career field or what have you, or your income, you may feel the full effect of where you live. You live in New York City, making $30,000 a year, you're homeless. You're homeless. So it's those type of things revolving money. Money solves problems. So in most cases, I line up my TSP, I line up my savings account, my emergency savings account, and I manage mostly my income, my passive income streams. This being one of them. I post typically twice a day, 3 a.m. and 9 a.m. Alaska time zone. Just posting content. This is a source of income. Typically once or twice a week on my podcast, which is this episode. The longer, anything over 10 minutes or so is a podcast. It's on Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, or Apple Music rather. But yeah, just managing my streams of income. I also give one-on-one consultations. Link in the description. If you need a conversation one-on-one with me, those are available as well. I sell merch. Like I have streams of income that I don't have to actively be touching it. This is obviously something I have to do actively, or I have to be present for. And then editing my videos, I do that in the morning typically. But the point is that I'm actively putting pillars in place that I can build upon. Meaning, if I lost my job tomorrow, I would still have income. I probably won't be living to the same level I'm living now because I'm still in the building phase. But the fact that I'm still looking ahead and I'm tracking my decisions to ensure they map to each other. You can't spend everything you make. Keep that in mind. You can't spend everything you make. The military is a very sheltered environment. A lot of people get lost here and they wake up 6 years later and realizing I have nothing to show for my 6 years outside of a free education, a couple experiences, some friends, contacts, but I'm broke. I'm broke. And it's very easy to outspend your income. It's very easy because a lot of people just assume, oh, first is coming around, 15th is coming around. Oh, taxes drop next week. They fall asleep. They fall asleep and they wake up 6 years later. They get out of the military trying to transition and they realize, I can't afford to move into this apartment. I can't afford my car note. And the military offers all these different pay advances and DLA advances and all BH advances. You know, you first move, you PCS somewhere else, you got leave, paid leave you can use. You got house hunting days you can use to go find an apartment, all get set up. Civilian world, it's different. It's different. So realizing immediately and upfront before you join the military, the value of the resources and the entitlements that you have available to you. Because once you're on your way out, a lot of people forget the civilian world. It's reality. It's reality. So just keep those type of things in mind. And that's sort of what I'm doing. Is just kind of setting myself up to make a smooth transition to whatever I want. Because it's one thing to have a ton of options. It's another thing to have smooth transition into those options. Like I have no plans of being homeless, trying to get things off the ground. No, I plan to do things very smoothly, which of course takes preparation, being present every single day. So, great question. I'm gonna skip. Let me check out the super chat. Shout out to the lead attorney. Appreciate you. Just ran into his channel a while back. Amazing content. If you guys are, I know a lot of you are, or most of you are military, but shout out to the lead attorney. He has a YouTube channel, and check him out. He's a family law attorney in Atlanta. Been in about 20 years, or been in the business about 20 years, and amazing insights, amazing content from someone who's actually in the field doing the work. He's different. And trust me. When it comes to wisdom, and hiding yourself before you hit the wall on things, this is where you want to be in regards to family court systems and having certain knowledges and insights. It's invaluable. Yeah, check him out. Shout out to the lead attorney again. Appreciate you. What else we got? Yo, the snow is coming off this building like sounds like an earthquake every time it happens. What else we got? Niall J asks, is it wise to pick up an AFSC that is identical to or similar to the degree that you want to major in college when joining the Air Force? Yes and no. Only because similarity does not... A lot of people don't realize the military is so different. The military is different. There are a lot of similarities in terms of, let's say you have someone who works in water and fuels on the aircraft. Cool. If you go to a commercial airline, and do the same thing, they're similar, pretty much the same thing, but they're obviously different. A pilot is able to transfer his skills pretty much from F-16 to let's say a 747 Boeing, but they're still different. I work in finance. If I was an accountant in the civilian world and I try to transfer those skills, I know they don't translate. And I have no civilian equivalent skills in the civilian world. But the military systems are ancient. The only probably the only equivalent software that we use is Excel. Excel. That's probably the only thing that translates to the civilian world. Our systems are ancient. They're audit friendly. They have to be because we're using taxpayer dollars. Here's my advice. Pursue the degree you want purely for the degree that you want to work in. For the career field that you want to be in. Pursue that solely by itself. Don't base it on the Air Force. The Air Force is a short time in your life. It's 20 years tops, 30 years, possibly 35 waivers. But in regards to why you're going to go into debt potentially, especially if you're going to college before the military, pick something you want to do that is profitable, mind you, and relates directly to the reality of the job market in the real world. The military is a very sheltered. I keep saying this. The military is a very sheltered environment. When you get here, you're going to realize, and especially when you leave, that, like personally, right now, I work in an accountant position, manage $8 million budget with 0 credits to my name, 0 experience, 0 training. But the military just trains you on the spot, on the job training. Do it. Do it. The civilian world is not the same way. A lot of people go into debt to learn a job, whereas the military pays you to learn a job. They're two different environments. If you're going into debt for something, make sure it's something that you can get your return on investment for. You're not going in crazy debt for it, and it's something you want to do. You want to do. And FSC typically, in most cases, is chosen for you. It's chosen for you. So to go into debt potentially, or to go and spend 4 years of investing into a college piece of paper, to then try to get a job that closely relates. Like, go check out my video on the 3 variables that decide your job in the Air Force. There are those 3 variables typically are not in your control, whereas your college degree may be fully in your control. Just be careful with that, trying to equate the two. They are very different while being similar at the same time. A lot of people mess up when they kind of just approach the Air Force like it's another career field. They try to approach it like it's college or the civilian world, and it's definitely not. It's volunteer based, and it's the military. So just keep that in mind. Apparently, we have a former Air Force ROTC cadre. Hit him up, Raven. What else we got? I think you're referring to a DLA advance. DLA advance is simply a dislocation allowance. So let's say you have an apartment. Let's say you're stationed at Andrews Air Force Base, DC, or Maryland, rather. You have an apartment, you live off base, and you commute to work every single day. Cool. Well, a DLA advance, or the dislocation allowance itself, is just simply a entitlement that helps you uproot your family to go from one place to another. And you don't need dependents. You don't need a family to do it, or to qualify for that allowance. You simply need to have an apartment that is not government quarters. So you just need to be living off base, essentially, at one base, going to another base that is also living off base. So, like, perfect example, I currently live in the dorms here at Clear Air Force Station. So I would not qualify for dislocation allowance going to my next base, because I'm not paying any cancellation fees. I'm not turning water and lights off. I'm not paying any bills here. I live here for free. So dislocation allowance is to help you offset the cost of moving your household from one place to another. And of course, an advance is just getting that money in advance. What else we got? What do you think about the Space Force? Why would they structure a second branch when the U.S. Air Force covered space exploration? We can't hear you, bro. What? Check the audio real quick. The audio should be working perfectly. All right, so what we got? Yeah, the audio's fine. All right. So why do you think? What do I think about the Air Force? So I made a video on this channel. I was wrong about the Air Force, or I was wrong about the Space Force rather, because I had the same comment at first. Why would we develop a whole branch to pursue or seemingly pursue space? This uncharted territory that we might compete in, for landmass or resources or what have you, or control, authority and what have you. First of all, the Space Force, it's more of an infrastructure. It points to a larger scope. It points to a larger set of ambitions. It's hard to explain the intent of it, but from the inside, looking in, if that makes sense, it's necessary. It's necessary. It's almost like if you wanted to keep the Marines and the Navy together, you could do that. But if you understand the purpose of the Marines and the purpose of the Navy, and you understand their purposes they're parallel, they're going the same direction, but yet they're unique. Their skill sets are unique. The Air Force could be a part of the Army, but we were separated to enhance each. It's almost like if you have what do they call it? Like those tools that have all the different attachments. They have screwdrivers, they got knives, all built into the same piece. Cool, but if you notice, if you separate all of them and you just build each one up independently, you can make it. You can max out. You can max out in terms of quality and the abilities of each individual item or tool, if you will. So, and again, you see this everywhere. You see this everywhere where you have luxury brands. And it's not so much that they're so much different than a Toyota, but a Mercedes is just, it's done differently and uniquely, and they're trying to max it out. Mercedes, the intent is they're trying to max out the car experience, versus Toyota is just trying to get you point A to point B. Space Force, they're trying to max out what they're doing in space, and not so much in space, but in non-physical arenas, if that makes sense. Hope that makes sense. It's hard to kind of get these ideas out, to articulate them, if you will. Shout out to Lee Attorney, who I believe he scripts his videos. I probably should be doing something like that, but live streams, I just flow with them. What else? What was the other part of that question? Okay, yep. What else we got? Tyler Parker asks, do you know how often can aircraft maintainers travel? I know a specific AFSC. It's called a flying crew chief. And it's the same job as being a normal crew chief, if you will, except they fly on the aircraft everywhere it goes. So it's the equivalent of like I don't know. Their job is to support that aircraft wherever it goes, basically. So instead of just working at a flight line or working at a specific base, and obviously you'll have a base of assignment where this is my actual permanent duty station. But the flying crew chief flies with the aircraft whenever it goes on a mission, or if it deploys, or if it goes TDY, you're going with the aircraft to support it, to ensure it runs properly. If anything breaks, their crew chief is fixing that. But in that case, it goes with it. So you're never standing by for it to return broken. Wherever it goes, you're going with it to ensure it does not break. And when it does, you're staying with it. So most aircraft maintainers are attached to a flight line, but there are certain exceptions where you might go TDY. I have some friends here at Allison, and I think they just went TDY to Guam, and of course their snaps were amazing. Top floor, it's Air Force accommodations, so they're overlooking the ocean, but you see them working too. They're doing exercises with various other countries and what have you. So there are TDY exceptions and certain special assignments and caveats, but in most cases, unless you're a flying AFSC, such as a flying crew chief, you'll be attached to a flight line. And yeah. He also asked, what is the best job for traveling that's not infantry? The assumption that infantry travels is probably flawed. Infantry travels probably in the same sense that we commute to work. Just depends on where you're traveling to. Personally, in the Air Force, specifically to the Air Force, load master is my number one job that I'm going after. It's what I plan on cross training into. Loading planes, balancing planes, and wherever that plane goes, you go there to load it and unload it in most cases. C-17 is the airframe I'm aiming for. C-17s go everywhere. They're everywhere. They're big enough to be effective, but they're small enough to land just about anywhere. As opposed to the C-5, where you need a certain amount of space to take off and land. And then C-130s typically are too small to be, highly effective in terms of flying over someone's ocean. Although they still do, but you get the point. C-5, obviously you can carry more. So yeah, when it comes to traveling, handful of AFCs, the 1A AFSCs are what you want to aim for in terms of traveling volume. Teray says, I just was offered the boom operator position. What are your thoughts, man? Very excited. Congrats, man. It's also on my list. Boom operator, in-flight refueler is also on my list. I believe it's top 5 for me. Go for it, man. Go for it. The views that you will have of refueling all manner of aircraft will be second to none. It's probably one of the closest experiences to what you see on the Air Force commercials. Being close and interacting with a tangible mission, to see the aircraft at the tip of the spear, if you will. Dope position. So I would definitely go for it. If it got offered to me, I would be taking it. So best of luck with that. Luke Kim asked a very vague question. I like it. Which job do you think is the best in the Air Force? My personal opinion, Loadmaster. Loadmaster on C-17 is, I want it. I like this question. Would you join Special Operations? This is a question that plagues me. It plagues me. David Goggins, when he came across my radar, he forced me to ask the big questions such as this one. Do I have the potential to operate in that arena with that mission set, with the requirements that would, be assumed? I don't think I'm built for it, honestly. And I mean, it takes, some humility to say that. I don't think I'm built for special operations for very simple reasons. Not so much that, because like the question came up to me, like personally, I would have to answer the question: could I kill someone intentionally? I don't know. It's not a question you want to have to address. Self-defense is one thing, but it's another thing to be sent to go do something. It's another thing to be in an environment where this is going to happen almost every time I go somewhere. This is potential, to occur. It looks cool. I suck at Call of Duty, and obviously the consequences are much bigger when it comes to joint. Well, not joint operations, but same thing. Special operations. There are joint, operation teams and what have you. But the answer will have to be I don't know, because I can't say no completely because something still pulls me towards it. Like there's something about it that makes me think, what if I actually did do that? And what if I actually did succeed at it? I don't know. Remains to be seen. Great question. John Haraway asks, is it better to enter through ROTC or OTS? I do not know. I'm not an officer. Typically, it's the same end result. So it really depends on if you're going to college at the moment or if you're trying to go to college first before you go to the military. The the difference between the two is that ROTC takes place before you join the military, whereas OTS happens after you've typically already been in. So there's that difference as well that you have to account for. Are you going to college first, or are you joining the military first as just enlisted, and then you plan on going officer later? Do you already have a degree where you can go OTS if you're in the military, or are you planning on going to college and then getting a degree? A lot of variables have to be accounted for, but in regards to which one is better, that question can't be really answered, honestly. What else we got? Kayla Wright asks, what jobs transfer to civilian world for, like, for example, an FBI agent, CIA agent, or someone that works for the government? I left the live for a while, so I'm not sure if you answered my question. Oh, the live for a while. There's something called an OSI agent. A lot of jokes go back and forth in regards to OSI and what they do and where are they. And I actually had a person I was working at the Pentagon, and there was a coworker working in personnel, and she cross-trained into OSI. She was gone for a couple months, but she finally graduated, and it's pretty much if you've ever seen NCIS, it's OSI is the Air Force equivalent of NCIS. They work closely with FBI, CIA, all these various agencies, the NSA, and what have you. But essentially, they handle U.S. And again, correct me if I'm wrong. It's something that should be Googled instead of asking me. But of course, I like to take a stab at things. But yeah, OSI tends to just deal with UCMJ violations. If I'm not wrong, I might be. But basically, they're the FBI of the Air Force. We have security forces, are like the cops, and then you have the federal agency, which is OSI. OSI will probably be your best bet. You can't join the military as OSI. You have to cross-train into it. And it's a whole process to go into it. So I went to a job fair when I was at Andrews, and the way they explained it was, and matter of fact, I have a contact who is OSI, so I might be able to interview, or I don't know. I'm planning a lot of things for this channel as far as doing interviews or whatnot. That'll probably be on my Patreon. Try to give some privacy. So, but we'll see. We're working on a lot of things over here, but yeah, OSI will be your best bet when it comes to if you wanted to transfer to those other career fields. You probably wouldn't have to be OSI. There are probably other channels that you can go to get to those. Obviously, there's the main pipeline, applying for those different agencies. CIA, I'm not sure you really just apply for CIA. Like, I think there's a somewhat abstract process. You gotta, like, they'll contact you, they'll find you with a newspaper and do a dead drop, and come to your house at 3 a.m. and I don't know. But yeah, OSI is probably your best bet if you're trying to just go through the Air Force way. Like, if you're trying to get to it through the Air Force, OSI will probably be your best bet. Shout out Taylor Page. Got the financial waiver approved. I see you. Congrats. Air traffic controller is a tough tech school from what I hear. The real Blackula asks, is it true that there are virtual bases in Central America, i.e. Panama, Colombia, Honduras, Ecuador? I'm not sure what you mean by virtual. There are physical bases there. Yeah. And not so much bases, but so we have air bases everywhere. The Air Force has air bases everywhere. And the air base simply being a flat line, an airstrip, concrete, to land. We have bases all over the place. The U.S. has their footprint all over the world. So Central America, I've been processed people from Colombia. I've been processed people from Mexico, from Australia. The military, like, I got friends in Belgium. I got people in what's that place? I can't think of the name. I think it's near Portugal. But yeah, you can go to Africa. There's plenty of places to go. We got a base in New Zealand. I just recently found out is at the airport. Abu Dhabi, we got a base there. I think we have one in Dubai. We're all over the place. It's the United States government. We're all over the place. So, yeah, it's quite difficult to get there because these places are not specifically, Air Force bases. A lot of them are just air bases. We're just landing strips, and then from there, if you end up going to one of these places, you probably have a specific skill set. You probably have a certain rank because there's probably not a lot of you there. So like position like that I'm in currently, it's a 1D position. They don't have 2 and 3 and 4 finance people here. There's 1. It's a very small base. They don't need 10 people here. They need 1 that knows what they're doing. Sadly, they sent me, but it is what it is. But same thing with personnel. There's 1 personnel here. There's 1 CSS here. So things like that. Samuel Rodriguez asks, what's your goal for your YouTube channel? My goal for my YouTube channel has changed quite often. At first, it was 1,000 subs. Got that. Then it was 10,000 subs. Got that. I typically approach YouTube from a couple different ways. Networking is probably one of the most powerful ways to meet people before they join the Air Force, to network across the world. Having friends in high places, having friends everywhere. It's invaluable. It's amazing to have friends all over the place. Like if I PCS and people already know me, that just makes adjusting to the area that much easier. Also gives you resources to tap into that I don't need to always have land or own something somewhere. I might have just a friend in the area that is already established there. Also, I'm here to make money. Here to make money. It's passive. When I turn off this camera, I still make money from it. Even while I sleep, even if I stop making videos, I still make money from it. It's a great source of income, especially in the potential it has because of the many users and the reach and the algorithm that you have access to. YouTube is a great way to test your entrepreneurial genes because unless you go viral in your first video, you'll start with 2 views, 3 views, no views, 5 views. And then if you guys look at my channel now, I have like 11,000 subs. A lot of my videos hit 100 views, 200 views, 300 views, 50 views. It's the algorithm. When I don't make Air Force content, this channel struggles. My money stays the same pretty much in terms of how much I make. But for the most part, unless I'm making Air Force content, this channel does not grow because my audience is mostly interested in Air Force content. And the algorithm kind of treats me like Air Force content. So whenever I make something about philosophy, the algorithm's like, nah, bro, we good. But if I put the word Air Force, military, Air Force job, recruit, order recruit, video takes off. So it's a balancing act between making content you like to make, like philosophy, and making content that the algorithm likes, which is, for me, Air Force military content. Mixing the two has pretty good results as well. But ultimately, my goal is to grow this to a place where the passive income, I can live off of it. Or even the sponsorships. I get emails all the time about people that want to sponsor the channel, and half the time I don't even think it's real. Sometimes I just think it's spam. Because especially if the email is not very personal, pass. You just send out copy and paste email to everyone. No, I'm good. But yeah, my goals are typically long-term. In most cases for this channel or for any other channel I would start. Long-term goal. So, but yeah, networking has been amazing already because the organic reach of just making Air Force content, it's very hard to Google anything Air Force related and not have my name pop up somewhere. So it's been invaluable. Good question. All right, if you really want your question answered, throw it in the super chat because we're about to wrap it up. So coming up on 2 hours. What else we got? Niall J asks, are you familiar with anyone doing the FSC's linguists and logistics? I'm interested in learning more about them. Keeping in mind that desk jobs are easier, but linguist job be overwhelming. A couple things about linguists, and I've had a couple people on this channel comment about being a linguist. It's a very difficult tech school. I don't know anyone that's currently a linguist. Anyone. It's really easy to find someone who's a former linguist in tech school because they would probably be a senior airman who failed probably 1 or 2 blocks and got reclassed. And they've been in tech school so long, because you're learning a whole different language. The military is trying to be efficient with it. Yeah, it's quite difficult in nature. So Just keep that in mind. I'm not saying not to do it. I'm not saying take on the challenge. Just be aware of what you're, undertaking. I know a lot of people in logistics. A lot of people. There's so many sections apparently. So when I was in ALS, I had a friend who she was the supply for the F-35, and like she did a presentation and she just broke down like there was like 12 different sections of logistics, and obviously that's a broad term, logistics, point A to point B, moving of parts, supply chains, and what have you. But yeah, it's hard to pinpoint what logistics is because there's so many different sections. It's kind of like finance. I believe there's like 4 or 5 sections in finance under the umbrella, and that's just like the broad definitions of a section. So yeah, just realize that there's sections under sections under sections when it comes to the military. Like there's a lot that goes into finance, personnel, med group. Like med group is just the medical building, but then there's dental, there's public health, there's family health, there's mental health, all these different sections under the umbrella. So logistics is a very broad term, and linguist is a very difficult tech school. So just be mindful of all of that. Good question. Intelligence. I turned down an operational intelligence job. I'm not sure why I did it. I probably should have took it. It probably would have been interesting. But yeah, I turned down an operation intelligence job. Who knows what would have happened? But yeah, that's all I know about it. There's one Intel guy here on Clear. One Intel guy. Yeah, probably might try to interview him as well. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Zach asks, do you have any experience with RPA pilots? If you have any thoughts on that and what duty stations they can have, it would help. Seems like there are many, our stations stateside or any station internationally. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by RPA pilots. I think you might be referring to unmanned drones pilots. I know there's a base in Nevada, might be Nellis. I know there's 2 bases or at least 2 in Nevada. I'll just leave it at that and say I don't know. Deployed, definitely. When I was in Abu Dhabi, we definitely had drone pilots there. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure they're all over the place. Joe Suta asks, did you have another relative in the military? Yeah, my dad was in the military. My brother's currently in the military right now. My brother is stationed at Shepherd. If you see somebody looking like me walking around, say what's good to him. He's kind of used to being approached at this point, getting mistaken for me, or people see the last name. And I'm like, do you know what's his name? Like, my sister's trying to join now too, so yeah, we try to get everybody up in here. All right, how many questions we got left? About to wrap it up. Let's see. Oh, excuse me. I got the GI Bill from my dad. Ended up using it to go to college to become an officer. Did I get the GI Bill again, or is it one-time thing? I'm not sure if that makes sense. I do not know. I don't know. That'd be a question for the education office on your average Air Force installation. And so, yeah, I'll run that past them. I don't deal with the education office that much. Yeah, don't know. Info about Ellsworth. Outside of, I think, our Air Force Financial Center is stationed there at Ellsworth. That's pretty much it. That's all I know. It's in one of the Dakotas. I have no plans of going there ever. Can a person join the Air Force if they have nut allergies? Probably. Yeah, allergies are pretty common in that way. Yeah, probably wouldn't be an issue. I mean, it's allergies. I mean, who doesn't have an allergy to something? What else we got? Hey, much love, Shock Value. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Let's wrap it up. Anthony Brown says, "Hey there, long-time viewer, first-time commenter. What are your views on becoming an officer? Do you think it's worth it? Which route do you become an officer? Would you recommend? Which route to become an officer would you recommend?" This is one of those places where I insert my opinion. It's not facts based. It's not metric based. This is purely opinion. I personally don't want to become an officer because the only reason I would become an officer would be for the money. They get paid amazing. That's about it. Because in the military, you typically work more than you're paid for. There tends to be an imbalance most of the time, and so from my experience, I haven't seen anyone working less than me as an officer, and I work a lot, and I'm disciplined, and I stay late, and I come in early, and officers tend to beat me to the job and leave after me. So it comes with it. I mean, obviously, if you're getting paid what officers are getting paid, they kind of respect results. And as an officer, you're not supposed to be wrong. Not that you should be wrong, not that there should be an excuse to be wrong, even on the enlisted side, that's not an excuse to be wrong at something. If there's a chance to prepare, if there's an answer somewhere, go research it and be accurate. But yeah, I personally would not want to be an officer. It seems to me to be diminishing returns, but of course, that's just my opinion. What was the other question? Oh my goodness. Weeding through all these questions. There it is. And which route to become an officer would you recommend? It really just depends on whether or not you pay for your own education. Do you have a degree already? If you working on your degree, I will go ROTC. Any program that assists you with paying for it. The goal is to avoid the debt, student loans, all that. I mean, it's diminishing returns to get a piece of paper that now you have to go work to pay off that piece of paper. If there's a way to get that piece of paper for free, and everything you make from that is profit, that sounds like an efficient way to do it. So it really just depends on your path and the variables that you're facing currently. Good question. Do a couple more. Yeah, you see me, bro. We out here. We're not sitting on here for 2 hours to be playing games with y'all. What else we got? Dom Jones says, any in-flight refueling specialists? Would you recommend that job for someone who's married? I don't, not personally. And the second part of the question is a very difficult one for me to answer because I don't plan on getting married. And even if I was married, I probably would not equate that into my decision because a job is something that you have to work. You have to work that job. So to factor in the opinion of someone else who's not going to be working that job doesn't seem to work with the way I think. So it might just be a me problem. Obviously, you care what your wife thinks, or your spouse thinks, what have you. But personally, I'm going to pick a job. If I have the opportunity to pick a job that I want to do, let's say for this example, I have control of the job I get. I'm going to pick a job that I want to do and I would enjoy doing for 4 to 6 years or longer. I don't want to wake up depressed to go to work because I use somebody else's opinion to influence my decision to do something. That's the last thing you want to do. So that's just my take on it. Obviously, you care what your family thinks as far as how long you're away from the house, and you might be traveling a lot, throughout your career. A lot of those things have to be factored in. You might miss a lot of important moments in your family's life. But again, if one is authorizing the other in terms of your financial stability, and your mental health matters, and more or less your enjoyment matters in terms of a career that you're choosing to go into. You definitely want to keep opinions prioritized in the given hierarchy of, let's say, happiness or fulfillment, if you will. Hope that makes sense. Hope that makes sense. I don't think there's an age limit. If you're joining the Air Force, you're joining the Air Force. So can a 17 or 18-year-old straight out of high school work operations intelligence? I don't think there's an age limit for it. As far as if you're joining the military, you're joining the military. So all the jobs are available, and there isn't an age limit. Like, oh, you can have this job when you're 21. I bet there's certain positions that might be limited by that, but over time, you wouldn't even qualify for that job until you've been in a certain amount of time, which at that point, you probably have a certain amount of age. Anyway, yeah, 17, 18-year-olds probably can get any job that a 21-year-old can get. I don't think that's a factor that they look at. And then when it comes to what I recommend it, I've never been in it, so I don't know. We're going to do a couple more. Yeah. I'm trying to avoid the middle of the country. I'm trying to avoid the West Coast at this point too. The West Coast kind of scarred me. Therefore, the Alaska's, nah, ain't it. And just a little bit of information. Taylor Page's Show and Love. If you guys are looking for more information on Air Force jobs, check out YouTube and Reddit, what have you. There's the Reddit name, or the subreddit rather. Reddit's dope. Petite Appetit says, I'm trying to join as an officer, but no one is willing to do the paperwork for me to go in with my son. It sounds like you're not including certain key information, such as the people that are willing to help you get in the military without your son, and in the sense that someone else would have custody. If that's an option, I will look into that. The Air Force is a very thin door, and there's probably been precedent of someone doing what you're trying to do and it not working out in some way or another. The Air Force is very reactive. The military as a whole is quite reactive, that when something goes wrong, they like to fix things that doesn't happen again. So they wait for something to happen. This shouldn't have happened. How do we fix it from not happening again? We're going to put this barrier in place. We're going to put this rule in place. If you go to a place and there's a sign that says, do not lick the gasoline or something stupid, it's probably because somebody did it before you. You're probably in one of those situations where someone tried to do what you're doing currently or what you're trying to do now, and it probably didn't work in one way or another. It's out of your hands, because clearly, there's a rule in place that you're encountering where everyone's kind of being consistent along that standard. Review your options. Simple as that. Review your options and find a way to get what you want. Find a way to get what you want. So hope that helps. I answered this already. Probably go back and rewatch the stream, but I think the too long didn't read was I don't know and kind of yes. Dom Jones showing love. Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you. I thought about it. Teaching is something that comes naturally. My dad's an amazing teacher. So I can see how it kind of rubbed off, but also my love of learning kind of makes me a great teacher. Not so much in my delivery, because my delivery has a lot to be desired according to my critics. But of course, it's something to work on. But and being an instructor of some sort, probably fun. Probably fun. I'd like to be an MTI. Let's hand out L's. Come here. That's what that's exactly what I was thinking of. To join the Air Force at all as a single parent, that waiver is going to come up at some point. That's something you have to look into. Where's the father? Or maybe you have your parents or your in-laws or a brother or sister that can take temporary custody. But yeah, my sister is dealing with that, trying to get in as well. I mean, it's pretty universal and it's pretty consistent across the Air Force that waiver, because again, you join the military. This is not your average corporate desk job in the corner somewhere. This is the military. Deployments happen, and I mean, in most cases, everyone deploys. In most cases, everyone deploys. And so at some point, the question will come up, where does your child go when you're gone? And so that needs to be in place before they even let you in the military. It doesn't have to be considered. It's not saying that it can't change, but at some point, that will have to be addressed. And so it's best to address it up front. And so, yeah, some tough conversations might have to happen. But yeah, that's something you have to address. Last couple questions. Why is it so hard to get a hold of an Air Force recruiter? I don't know. Probably the same way, the same reason why it's hard to get a hold of me. If you call my phone, I'm not gonna answer it. In most cases, I'm not gonna answer it. Yeah, I mean, you gotta think that recruiters are people too, and that a lot of it's effort based. A lot of their position is effort based, meaning the time it takes to get someone from zero to the front door of basic training. It could be done quickly, relatively, or it could take months. It really just depends on what you're bringing to the table as far as your history and the issues that you're coming with, and then also your discipline and how fast you can get your tasks accomplished, how fast you can study and pass the ASVAB, how fast it takes you to get in shape, how long it takes you to pass MEPS. If you do everything on the first time, it could be very quickly. But in terms of contacting someone, it's up to you to cross that gap. To be annoying, to get their attention somehow. Use Instagram, check their check-ins, contact the people that have checked in and swore in at that location of the recruiter's office. Use Twitter. Find a card with their name on it, something. Go to the Marines office right next to the Air Force office and see if they have a number for that office over there. See if they have a card for that office over there. Go out of your way, get creative. Find their Instagram, find their Facebook, and say, help me. But yeah, effort tends to work in cases like this where, someone is not meeting you halfway. Well, go all the way. Go 100% and go find them. But yeah, effort, it's very hard to deny someone's effort. It's very hard. So hope that helps. Have you ever played airsoft? No. Nah. Played paintball. Painful experience. It was dope. It was fun. Any more? Much love, Zach. Much love. Best of luck. All right. Thanks for everybody for participating. Got one last question. Last question for Anthony Brown. Last question. What are your tips on following through with goals you have set for yourself? Mental resilience, willpower. I'm referring to me beginning to run to lose the weight. There are typically two variables surrounding any goal you set and your ability to achieve it. You have what you're running away from and what you're running towards. What I run from daily is regret. But what I run towards typically is a feeling. Everything we do is in pursuit of a feeling. Everything we eat is in pursuit of a feeling. Satiation. It sounds as if, and of course I hesitate to assume, but you said I'm referring to my beginning to run to lose weight. I see this in myself a lot because a lot of times we have struggles where we try to overcome them with cold turkey. So in a case where you haven't been running at all, or let's say, for example, you're 300 pounds, and you want to start running tomorrow. You don't start with running tomorrow. Your joints are not accustomed to holding that amount of weight under that amount of pressure. You start with being consistent with walking a mile a day. Every single meal is mostly protein, zero sugar, carbs, fats, substantial enough to support hormone health, things of that nature. But it starts with something simple. My goal, if you see on this channel, if you see in my daily life, I don't do anything major. I don't do anything big. My camera is streaming me in 4K. StreamYard is putting out at 1080p. This camera, or this light, this laptop, all this was bought over time. If you look at my very old videos, shot on a S8, S9 Plus, just I'm starting out. And then I got a microphone for the phone, and then my audio improved. Now I'm using a Thron Max. I bought another mic. I'm replacing this one. Hopefully next week it'll be here. But it starts with just doing small little things. A lot of times we try to jump to these huge, major improvements, this cold turkey approach, and we can't sustain that. You also mentioned the mental resilience issue. It's all attached. Willpower, it's all attached. We have people trying to jump to the top of a mountain without climbing it. Of course, your mental health will suffer, and your willpower and your confidence. Because with every failure, it's taking a ding. Your self-belief takes a hit every time you fail something. But what if you can get just a ton of little wins? A lot of little wins. Making a masterpiece of 24 hours. My goal today was to go live. I didn't know how long. I just picked the topic. I was like, all right, the channel needs some Air Force content. Been putting out a lot of philosophy, kind of, abstract type thought process videos. My thought process today was to work out, make content. That's it. Something small. Went to the gas station. I was hungry. Get the protein shake. Check. It did not improve my entire life. I'm still pretty much the same weight I was before I bought the snack. But the point is, every decision needs to be something that I know I can achieve this, mark it off my list, and then move on to the next thing, the next moment, the next obstacle. Also, a lot of planning has to do with it. So behind me, I have some White Claws. I'm typically a Henny and ginger ale type dude. A Henny and lemonade. Jameson and ginger ale. I keep a little vanilla, Syrah, in the crib. But keeping White Claws, it still allows me to participate and take the cup. But it allows me to be more prepared when it comes to low calorie approaches, zero sugar approaches. Keep my coffee next to my bed, so when 2:30 hits, no excuses. Just grab the coffee and drink. I have 2 sets of live streaming equipment. Just removes excuses by preparing to the point where I don't have the excuse anymore. Because at first I didn't want to have to take my camera down and reset it up and reset up the scene. And then, now I have 2 of each. I have 2 A6400s, 2 MacBook Pros, 2 microphones, 2 HDMI cords, 2 mouses, 2 exact same mouses. I took away the excuse. And the ability to prepare for something almost kind of ensures that half of the work is done. The willpower to set up a live stream is now simply me sitting down, opening the streaming service. Simple. Just log in, type in the title, press the button. Live. I don't got to set anything up. I'm going to calibrate anything. But it's because I kind of took the willpower element out of it, that I don't have to work hard to set something. I don't got to work hard to sit down and work hard to set up a tripod and weed all these cords together and cord management. No, it's already set up. and I leave it there. We can do the same thing with our lives. Meaning the time you go to bed, the time you wake up, all your alarm clocks should be set before you even, every alarm should be set. There should not be any struggle to wake up in the morning. You should know, all right, if I need caffeine, my caffeine needs to be set next to my bed within arm's reach. Lights need to be going on at guaranteed. I'm not turning on any lights when I wake up. The lights come on at a certain time. If music needs to play, set an alarm. We live in 2021, all this technology. We should be creating environments that is conducive to us being halfway to our goals before we even try to approach it. A goal is simply a lot of steps done consistently. If you reverse engineer a given goal and say, what does this goal entail? If I want to climb a ladder, well, I have to climb 1, 2, 3, 4, these 10 steps to get on top of the ladder. It's quite simple, and a lot of people just try to overcomplicate it and say, I need to jump to the top of this ladder and somehow make it more efficient and effective and just get to the top and just skip all this middle ground and all this friction. No. I will beat most people by being consistent, not by being the best, not by being the fastest, the strongest. I will beat most people because I'm consistent. I started this channel around the same time as a lot of other people that started this channel, their channels. And I'm competitive, and I know I don't need 4K content. I don't need the most trending topics. I don't need to be controversial. I know anything grows as long as you're consistent. Anything grows if you're consistent. So that's my best answer. Don't try to chop down the tree with one chop. Sharpen the axe. Hope that helps. I'm done for the night. 2-hour live stream. Goodness. Y'all have a good night. Hope this helps. Hope this brought some type of value to you. Hope there was something said that you could take away from this. Be encouraged. Tomorrow's Tuesday. May or may not be here. We'll see. I'm trying to slow down on the live streams and just kind of be more thorough, more intentional. But that's the video. I will see y'all in the next video. Say what's good to your boy.